Hey, it's Saturday and I'm waiting for a buyer to come through and tour my home today and hopefully make an offer. But I thought I'd take a minute to do something I've been putting off for a while now, which is to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about what I'm doing with my property and with my project. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Rhonda, and I am a 54-year-old woman living in Texas. So if I talk too slowly or too quickly, please use that little button in the top right of your screen to adjust the cadence to one that is suitable for you, because sometimes I get excited and I start talking fast, and sometimes I'm really thinking about what I want to say and I slow down. So apologies in advance, and I can't really help this Texas accent. I've been working on it for years. But nobody really tells you how hard it is to sit down and actually make a video, a candid, genuine, authentic piece about yourself. It's so easy to tear it apart, rip it apart, and start to say, I don't like the way I look, I don't like the way my hair looks, I don't like the way my voice sounds, and I'm just really trying to get a message out to you guys today. So hopefully we don't get wrapped up in aesthetics, because I'm really trying hard to get away from that part of my life and that lifestyle. So anyway, I wanted to tell everybody a little bit about myself, because it's really easy to look at somebody with a farm or a ranch and kind of think, oh, it must be nice. Rich people can do whatever they want or whatever. And I mean, maybe we've all been guilty of saying something like that at some point, but to be honest with you, you should never really say that, because you don't know. 9 times out of 10, we don't know what the background of that person was and how they ended up there. And sometimes it's a really remarkable story you're missing out on hearing, because you made an assumption that it was given to them or things came easy or whatever the case may be. So I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of my background and history without boring you guys too much. Some of you may know this, and some of you that are just getting to know me or just starting to follow. I only have 28 followers, and I'm so excited. Anyway, just getting started, and I'm not doing it for the clout, the money. I'm not trying to be a YouTuber. Guys, I'm not going to edit this video. You're going to hear my smoke detector battery going off in the background, and apologies in advance for that. I just replaced 2 of the batteries about 30 days ago, getting this house ready for showing, and I'll be darned if another one didn't just pop up like 2 days ago. So I don't have a ladder right now. I'm waiting for my friend Cowboy to bring that to me from the property next week so I can replace that smoke detector battery. So please don't let that discourage you from this really important message. So I wanted to let you know how I ended up getting the land that I'm going to be building on, and that I'm going to be creating a healing ranch from, and kind of living out my dreams. And it's something that I've been thinking about for years and years and years. I didn't grow up in the country. I didn't grow up on land. I didn't grow up around animals. In fact, I don't think I touched my first cow until I touched my first cow, which was last April 2024. I touched a cow. I touched a cow and I liked it. I mean, I had never really been exposed to that. So I lived in a neighborhood in Houston, kind of inside the city limits, but just on the outskirts, and it was kind of considered, it's called Recreation Acres, if anybody is local and is aware of that. It was 3 long streets that were about 3 miles long, formerly rice paddy land. It was all probably one contiguous ranch at some point, I'm sure. A low-lying area that was sold off very cheaply to several families, my family being one of them. Excuse me. And my family bought about a half of an acre of land and proceeded to build our family home on it, and I moved into that home when I was about 8 years old. Next to that home was a couple of acres of just very wooded, uncleared, what I would consider beautiful land, just natural, pretty space. And as kids, we used to kind of, jump the fence or run out the back and kind of circle back around so we could get over to those woods. And I didn't realize how much time I spent in those woods as a child, but I spent a lot of time in those woods as a child. And the main reason was because I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and I know that now. I didn't know that at the time. You make do until you figure it out once you get old enough to start realizing, oh gosh, my friends and their family don't do things quite like we do. Then you start looking around and realizing, yeah, we might have been kind of weird. But anyway, I was really that baby lamb that the mom rejected. My mom just never liked me. She liked me, I think, probably when I was little, like baby, until maybe my brother was born at 3. But for whatever reason, my family, one of the familial curses that I know the Owens family really had a lot to do with, which was on that side of the family. They revered boys in the family, and I realized that this is a long-standing thing. I'm 54, so my mom would be roughly around 76, 77 right about now. Her parents are past, which would be my grandparents, but I mean, they'd be getting up on 100 years right now. So, 100 years ago, I guess you wanted boys, you wanted males in the family because they were going to work the farm, they were going to go out and work and bring money into the household. It's not right, but I do understand culturally why that was that way back in the day. However, we have to be the stewards of things that need to be thrown away and need to be kept throughout the balance of time. And I just don't think my family did a really great job of that. And so I've made an effort to try to do better with that in my generation. And I believe that I am a generational curse breaker for my family on both sides, going back, I don't even know how many generations, because I only know a couple of rings of those ladders due to the fact that our family was so dysfunctional. But anyway, mom really wasn't she did the best that she could do with the tools that she had in the place that she was in mentally. We'll say that. Currently, I am estranged from my mother. It was actually her choice, and we'll talk about that probably in another video, because I think that all those things do have something to do with how I got to where I'm at. So it's important. I mean, I don't want people to think, oh, you just wake up one day and magically your whole life is together. I mean, it takes decades of planning and work and doing things the wrong way and doing things the right way and figuring out what way works best for you and what's in alignment with the way that you feel and what your belief system is and your values and all of that good stuff. But I digress. So as I was growing up, we had a bayou and a creek well behind several properties, kind of at the end of the street. And I grew up with a lot of boys in the neighborhood. There wasn't a girl to play with until I was about 9 years old. And I'll talk to you guys about that in another video too, because she ended up being one of my first and biggest betrayers in my life. But that's kind of what led me to going through a spiritual transformation, which brought me here. So, I mean, I have to be thankful to all these people for what they did and what they didn't do, because it's what shaped me and what brought me here. So anyway, I used to play outside a lot, and I didn't realize that as a result of a lot of childhood trauma that I had, I would kind of run away to the woods, run away to the bayou. I would just go play with, I would go fishing, I would go catching fish, I would catch turtles. We messed with snakes because there was all kinds of things. Growing up in Texas, obviously, you have a lot of things outside to play with and a lot of months out of the year that you can go do that. So I did just that. I spent a lot of time in the woods and outside, and that really was healing for me. I just didn't realize it until I got older, how important that would be. But I started working at a very early age. I had as I mentioned, somewhat of a traumatic childhood, which I didn't really realize at the time. But by the time I was 12, I had multiple essay events, which you have to be careful about what you say on the internet, because they will flag you and ban you, but basically just schmexual assault, and that would be inside my family and my immediate, my extended family, and then my immediate circle. So like our family's friends and things like that. I had multiple instances of that, starting from the age of 8, where it happened in 2 separate instances, one with my neighbor's family, and one with the family and children of my parents' friends that they used to play like dominoes and cards with and stuff. So we would like go spend the night at their house kind of thing, you know. And anyway, the biggest one was actually with my grandfather, and it affected multiple of my cousins on that side of the family, on the Davidson side of the family. Really horrible event, obviously, that then led to my parents getting a divorce at 13, which then led to me going to 3 different high schools. So there was a lot of instability in my younger years. And then I had my mom blaming me for breaking up her marriage because I was sexually assaulted, right? So, because that's my fault. Yeah, because that's what you do to your kids. You blame them. And then don't get them any help when they ask for counseling. You just go, well, you know, we don't have money for that. And then you go and get a boob job. Just kidding. Well, not really, because that's actually what happened. She did go and get a boob job after she told me we didn't have money for counseling. So back then I would just kind of talk to my counselors at school and reach out to really anybody that I could, because I knew that I needed healing, and I knew that I needed to tell somebody what was going on with me, how I was feeling. And I really just needed an adult to kind of say, oh my God, that shouldn't have happened to you, and I'm so sorry, and you know, what can we do to help? But unfortunately, 1983, they weren't really rolling like that back then, okay? They were kind of like, my counselors listened to me. They actually didn't say anything to anyone. It never went anywhere. CPS never visited my house. So, you know, I was failed in multiple ways. I was failed primarily by my mother initially, and my parents in general, for not making that situation right after they should have made it right, because it was a long 3-year stint of this. This wasn't a one-time thing that happened when somebody had too much punch at Christmas. You know what I'm saying? This was legitimately a sick individual that was allowed to come in and take care of us for weeks at a time, or that we were sent to their home, et cetera, et cetera. And all of that happened while my grandmother was dying of cancer. So she would come to Houston every 4 weeks to receive a chemotherapy treatment, where they would stay for a week, and she would be in my bed sick and throwing up, and then my grandfather would basically be chasing me around the house, manipulating me, and, you know, telling me all kinds of stories. And I didn't know, you know, that wasn't true. I trusted him, obviously, because he was my grandfather. And I didn't realize he'd been grooming me since, you know, birth, because he'd done this in multiple generations of our family. So, I mean, everybody should have known, and everybody probably did know, but they did nothing. But that happens, right? There's no big hooty-doo about that. This happens all the time. It's an unfortunate detail, but it's something that definitely shaped me. So anyway, fast forward a little bit, and I went to 3 different high schools, and I went to 3 different high schools for a couple of reasons, but the main reason was the instability that was in my family, and the abuse that I endured, and the fact that I didn't get any help and I didn't have anybody to back me up kind of led me on a journey that really spiraled me to a place that most people don't recover from, and don't actually get to sit down in a home that they built and bought, to have a conversation with you about that, because they're usually on the street, homeless, drug addiction, or in a series of broken relationships with multiple children's fathers, and they're just not living what we would consider to be productive, healthy lives that we would kind of maybe role model ourselves after, because a lot of people just don't end up with the happy story at the end of that. So it's all about mindset, and it's about finding a way to heal yourself and standing up for yourself when other people don't stand up for you. It just took me so many decades to figure that out. So, but this property, this whole thing is part of that journey. And I'm getting there, y'all. I am, I promise. So anyway, I went to 3 high schools, which was, in retrospect, such an awesome shaping experience because it gave me an opportunity to recreate myself 3 times. You know, a lot of times kids kind of are born into whatever they're born into and the family that they're born into, and that reputation and everything kind of precedes it. Well, when I was back in my first family's home, going to my first high school, those people at that school just saw me as poor white trash. The neighborhood I grew up in was considered a white trash neighborhood. It was, the police were out all the time. There were trailer park fights. There were, you know, if you had a party on the street, somebody would come by and get their feelings hurt with a bunch of sawed-off shotguns in the back of a truck and then, you know, let the air out of everyone's tires that day. So it was just that kind of award-winning neighborhood, right? But these people didn't want me to be great. They weren't going to let me be great. Like, they were determined to put me in this caste system of the poor, you know, white girl, and I was just poor white trash, and I was never going to be anything other than that. As a result of that, I ended up starting a job. I took my first job at 14, and back then in 1984, you could go to McDonald's on your bike and say, hey, I've got a social security number, I don't have an ID, and I'm 16. And they would just hire you. I mean, I don't know if they do that now today. I think technology is like way too advanced for you to be able to get away with those kind of soft truths. But yeah, I did lie because I needed things. So growing up, I had $100 a year to spend on school clothes, which was like 1 pair of jeans, 1 pair of shoes, and maybe 3 shirts, maybe 4. If I caught something on sale, if I really did a good deal back then, kind of shopping. And I did get to make the decision on what I bought with that $100. So, you know, but I mean, $100 didn't go very far back then. You know, it doesn't go anywhere today, right? But nonetheless, I got tired of, I remember one school year wearing a pair of lilac pants the entire year, and I believe it was 8th grade, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they were purple, y'all. There was no way to disguise they were purple. They were purple on Monday. They were purple on Thursday. And everybody knew it, and I was just a poor girl that had 1 pair of purple pants. So that was traumatic, but they weren't gonna let me be a cheerleader. They weren't gonna let me be great, like I said, and they'd already decided that, you know, I had poor parents. I had lived in a poor house in a poor part of town, and I was just going to be, you know, that. So fast forward, I got thrown in the back of a white moving truck, like those kind that have like the little J hook on the bottom. So they literally kidnapped me in the middle of the night. I had run away from home several times. I did not want to be at home with people who clearly didn't love me and didn't intend to protect me. And that was tough. So they came and kidnapped me and sent me to Austin to live with my aunt and uncle for 1 semester, which I thought was going to be for life. I created a whole life there when I got there, and actually ended up being quite popular, believe it or not. It was great. I tried out for varsity soccer, which I had never played varsity. I had never played soccer before, made the team. Like, everything was just going great, and 2 things happened. One, I was kind of popular and a little bit, I think, taking over maybe my cousin's social life a little bit and disrupting his family, because we were the same age and the same grade. And that wasn't really cool, so it was causing a little strife in his family as a result. I mean, not my fault, just the way things worked out, you know. We had a pool, and he was a football player, and I mean, his friends would come over, and we'd all go swimming in the pool, and the next thing you know, like, his 15-year-old and 16-year-old, you know, football playing friends wanted to come over and see his cousin in her bathing suit at the pool. So, I mean, that's just normal, I think. But aside from that, my mom also needed to get custody of the house from the divorce. And in order to do that, and in order to get child support, she needed both kids on deck. So even though she didn't really want me there, like, she kind of had to call me back. So I ended up coming back, and then that's how I ended up at the 3rd high school, the one that I actually graduated from. So I ended up spending a year and a half at that high school. It was the longest I was at any high school, and that was the one I was finally able to make varsity cheerleader at, and that's when I really started kind of building up some more confidence in myself. But as a result of what happened that first year, with everything just being all confusing and horrible, and my parents going through a divorce and no one kind of accepting what had happened to me, but in fact turning it around and victimizing me instead, I failed 4 of my 6 classes my freshman year of high school. And so I spent the entire remainder of my high school career, whether that was in Austin or back here in Houston, taking summer school classes back to back to back to back so I could still graduate on time. And I did graduate on time, which ended up being early. So I graduated in 1988 at 17 years old. Now, my parents were so busy passing the buck to one another and figuring out who could get remarried the fastest. Nobody talked to me about college, about what to do with that, about what that looked like. In fact, it was kind of an ongoing joke, like in 88, we break your plate, and they would, kind of sing this song. And it's really kind of sad because I grew up culturally that way where, you're 18 or you're going to be out of the house. They kicked me out of the house at 17, so I didn't even make it till 18. And the reason they kicked me out was because I humiliated the family, and I brought shame onto the family. So how did I do that? I had a boyfriend that was not the color that they thought I should have. So on top of all of the other stuff I told you, I grew up in a family that was very racist, and I have never been. I am not a racist person, and I never have been. And in fact, my mother used to tell a story about me. It was one of the few stories she told about me, which she actually, of course, twisted it and made it like I was the bad guy for doing what I did. But at 3, she lost me in the mall. She was pushing my brother in a stroller, and I was walking apparently alongside of her, and maybe I was supposed to be holding on to the stroller. So again, I'm sure it's something I did wrong. But anyway, I ended up going off with another guy and his child, and it was a black man and his young daughter. And so when she finally found me, I was holding hands with the daughter who was holding hands with her daddy, and it's some strange daddy and some strange girl and me in the mall all holding hands. So even at 3 years old, I think I realized that I had love in my heart, and I had a different way about me that actually didn't even match the family that I was born into. So yeah, there's that. But I love all people of all colors and of all nationalities, and I absolutely love learning about other people's cultures and the way that they do things differently and the way that they cook things differently and what different things mean to them. It's just so fascinating to me, and always has been. But anyway, that's a second curse that I broke in my family, and I'll make that a whole nother video because we could literally go on for hours just on that subject alone. But back to how I got my property, okay? So I ended up getting kicked out of the house. I was 17. I couldn't even sign a lease. I had to hustle that up and sublease from somebody who ended up being my dad, actually. I subleased the apartment that he moved into when he moved out of the house to give it back to my mother. And so I stayed there with my boyfriend at the time, who was considerably older than me. He was 7 years older than me. Back then, that wasn't kind of considered too weird. He was 24 and I was 17. Now it's a little sus, a little sketch. But honestly, I was trying to get out of that frying pan as fast as I could. I would have probably moved into the den of lions at the time. It would have been a better alternative than where I was at. So nonetheless, got out, and I had gone out and gotten a waitressing job, and I was working at a gym, so I had 2 jobs. I always worked all the way through high school and all the way through school, and bought my own clothes and my own toiletries and personal effects. I literally bought everything I needed for myself. I was pretty much emancipated at 14. And now my brother on the other side was not. They paid for his college and the whole 9 yards. We won't talk about that today. And I'm not upset about that. Again, this was my journey for a reason, and it was supposed to be a little different, and it was supposed to be a little rockier, but that makes it so much more sweet in the end, right? So I'm working, I'm busting my tail, and I finally realize, I'm like, what do I really want to do? And I really wanted to lease apartments at the time. So I looked in the paper, because that's what we did back in 1988. We didn't have the internet. So I opened the paper. There was a leasing job hiring. It was the Houstonian's business, a building, the only building that the Houstonian owned. And it turned out to be an apartment community inside the Loop with about 95 occupied roof leaks in it at the time, which I didn't know. So long story short, I got my career started off there. I spent 7 years in the leasing industry working for great corporations and kind of building my knowledge and skill set, and just really loved working with people, really loved the challenge of every single person being a unique and different experience that I had to uncover and figure out how I could help them. And I've always had a servant's heart, just naturally, that I just love helping people and hopefully, sharing whatever knowledge I can, with someone else to just make their day a little brighter or make it a little easier. So it kind of was a perfect fit for me. From there, I went into corporate housing and I worked my way up the ladder. And then all of these career stories are kind of boring, so I really won't go too much into detail. But long story short, I spent 7 years in the apartment industry, which led me to the corporate housing industry, where I spent another 7 years. And that took me on a journey where I ended up moving to Southern California with my son, knowing no one, taking a job, because I ended up being caught up in a non-compete clause in Texas between Marriott. And nobody wanted to go up against them in court. So I was like, all right, well, if I'm that bad, then I'll just take my show to California. Hey. And that's what I did. And that was a super big growth experience for me. Like I said, I'll cover that in another video one day, because I could spend a whole probably hour just talking about that. So nonetheless, after all of the corporate housing stuff ended up finalizing, I realized that another 7 years later, I was ready to start something new. And I had really wanted to get off into real estate and didn't follow my hunch when I was in the apartments, because I listened to a mentor, and that mentor let me play small. And I learned a lesson from that. And I never should have taken her advice on that. I looked up to her so much, and I looked up to her like a mother, and I still love her, and I don't have anything negative at all to say about everything that she contributed toward me. I just realized that advice that was framed on her own belief system, and I should have never listened to it, because I would have probably started my career a lot sooner. But hey, everything ends up happening the way it's supposed to, right? So in 2004, I ended up starting in new home sales, and I worked for a builder, and I worked for them for 20 years. And I just resigned from that job in February. Wow, I really never thought I would. I kind of thought like I would be a lifer there, but I realized, I can't do everything that I want to do and still be that much of service, weekends, holidays, evenings, being at everyone's disposal, people walking in with no appointment, wanting you to stay for hours, and it's a 100% commission job too. So made it work for 20 years, enjoyed it, really loved what I did there. And still do. I just realized that alignment-wise, I need to be doing something that's serving me and really setting me up for a beautiful, soft retirement season, where I can continue to help people, but I'm not under that corporate drill anymore, because I need to be, sometimes people walk in and that person just needed to have somebody listen to them that day and love them and nurture them and tell them that everything is going to be okay, because frankly, it's a scary world out there. But when you're in a situation where you're supposed to sell, they really are not as intent on you having that many relationships that aren't producing a sale, if you will. So I don't know. I just think my healing energy would be better served in another environment. So to wrap all that up, I ended up buying and building and almost closing on a home, a second home in Cypress that I was going to take on, because I was working so far away from my primary home that my commute was 2 hours a day. It was killing me. It was sucking the life out of me. So I bought this other house, and before I could close on it, I got moved. And I got moved really close to home. And I hadn't been that close to home in a really long time, and I realized I didn't need two houses 30 minutes from each other. I didn't need two houses in the same location. And so God worked it out where I was able to get out of that contract, and the very day I got out of that contract, I found my land. So I'd been looking for my land on and off, I would say for about 4 years, and really intently right around the COVID period, because I had realized that, man, if I had bit the bullet sooner and bought some land before COVID hit, I'd actually have a place to run away to right now and recharge. So I finally was able to make the connection, and I didn't make it until I went through a horrible divorce 7 years ago, where I married a narcissist, sociopath, complete fraud, con man, and was married for a very short period of time. During that period, I kept running away to the woods here in my property, because we have a 150-acre nature preserve on the back of the neighborhood of this house that I live in. And I mean, I would take my dogs and I would just go for hours and just sit out there. I mean, even if I just moved logs around and, you know, created my own little campsite. And one time I accidentally made a fire out there and all hell broke loose. So I know you're not supposed to do that. Sorry. But I really found it to be very healing, very restorative. And I still didn't put two and two together. Nature is healing. All of these things are healing. And as I was going through that divorce period and kind of figuring out who I was, because I went through a whole spiritual, I don't even know what to call it. I mean, some people will call it a midlife crisis. Some people will call it, I don't know what they'll call it, maybe a nervous breakdown. And it really wasn't any of those things. It was a metamorphosis of my soul and my spirit and me, trying to get out of a container that I was never intended to be in, so I could be in the right container that I was intended to be in. And so I just kind of, very cliche, you know, to say the caterpillar and the butterfly, but I mean, it really is that. And so when you're coming out of, you know, something where you used to crawl on your belly with legs, and then trying to figure out how to actually pop out some wings and then that you can fly with them, it takes a minute to get that, you know, get to a place where you're comfortable trying out your new wheels, you know. I mean, it's totally different. So as all these things are happening, I'm changing. I'm huge changes as a person, and emotionally and spiritually, and I'm doing a huge amount of healing at the same exact time. And one of the things that I did was I went to a bunch of animal shelters and tried to volunteer there. And I'm going to tell you guys, I am definitely an animal lover, but I've come to realize that I have some gifts, and you can call those whatever you will. You know, some people will call them anointings, some people will call them gifts of the spirit, and things like that. I don't know, but I'm way too sensitive to be working with the dog shelters. I don't have enough land to take all those dogs home, and I mean, I love them all. I can like feel all their trauma, you know what I mean? So I ended up going and visiting with the girlfriend of mine. She worked at, she still does work actually, at Habitat for Horses in Alvin, Texas. And they have a bunch of horses, and I went out there to volunteer with her one day. She let me come out and tinker around out there. And when I tell you that one horse and one donkey made my whole day, that just restored my soul. And I did not realize how powerful the healing of these animals is. And when I started to do more research, and I realized that the energy that we have as a heart creature, being a human, it emits a certain frequency. So do dogs and horses. And I'm sure, you know, all the animals and all the plants and every species emit some type of an energy and some type of a frequency. And I mean, if you're a super country person, you may not be used to hearing that kind of jargon, and it may sound kind of spiritually hooty-doo, whatever. Listen, it's all the same stuff. People just use different words for it. So don't get lost in the sauce. Like, if I'm not communicating it in the right word, try to just understand and seek the nugget from the message and understand what that is, instead of trying to like judge maybe where I'm shaping the words from, because that's all going to be different for each of us based on our own individual circumstances. But nonetheless, I realized the incredible healing power that these animals possessed. And I thought, wow, like, I wonder how many divorced women or broken people or whatever have ever come out and like been healed on the spot, like by an animal. It really got me starting to think. And of course it wasn't that easy, right guys? Because this is tons and tons and tons of stuff that's happened over the course of years. And I didn't even cover like all of the stuff that has occurred, you know, from then to now, because again, those are all separate videos for people who are specifically looking for that information and that data. So I won't bore you with that today, but it was pretty incredible. The healing power was pretty incredible. I mean, it's more than just having, you know, your dog, your companion, your loved one. I mean, that's totally a real thing. But, you know, at this stage in my life, when I was going through my divorce, I had waited, and my only son is now 33 years old. So at the time I got married, he was 28. So, I mean, you know, pretty much grown and gone, essentially. So it wasn't like I had any young children to dote over. I didn't have any crazy schedules to attend to. You know, none of that stuff. It was just kind of, I was able to just sit in and sink in and think about and feel all those things that I felt. So just incredible to go to a rescue where animals have been neglected, mistreated, just horrible things that have happened. And I actually ended up adopting a lot of the animals that are at my property right now. And I'll tell you guys some stories about those. Bolt and Willow, two of my little favesies. They're my little white Palomino paint horses. You probably can't even tell they're Palominas or paints because their pattern's so muted on their fur. But if you get up really close to them, you can kind of see it's beige and it's white. It's not just all white. But from a distance, they look like all white ponies. But they look like a horse that I wanted when I was a little girl and I never got. But anyway, they were rescued out of a pasture where they literally were walking around nothing but dead animals, including their own mother. They were rescued skin and bones by the Habitat for Horses, and they were eating around the carcasses of all of their former herd mates. It's very sad. They had minutes, hours to live maybe. Their mom had been dead in the pasture for weeks. She has already passed, you know, going back to the earth. Beyond sky burial at that point, if you will. And I just kind of really felt like, oh my gosh, you know, I felt that way. I felt kind of unwanted in childhood and undesirable. And I don't know, giving love to an animal like that, guys, it just melts your heart. There's something that it does. I guess it would be like adopting children, you know, for some people. I mean, everybody's got their thing, you know. So anyway, I ended up buying the land. And it was crazy because the land was exactly what had already come to me in a dream. So God had given me a dream years before that where I was walking in this pasture and I could actually see the sun setting and I could smell the honeysuckle and I could smell the breeze lightly bringing forth just kind of a very soft essence of citrus blossoms from an orchard. And this orchard was around the pond. There was a beautiful pond there. And the sunset, all of this I can see very vividly in my dream, okay? And the sunset was just kind of coming down and it was laying all these triangles of orange and magenta and reds and purples and all these colors coming out of the sunset, just sprinkled out on this pond. And I can smell orange blossoms and I can smell lemons and I can smell cherries. I can smell everything in this dream. And I see animals off in the distance and the animals are in twos, like Noah's Ark style, like two of this and two of that. And so I always kind of felt like, oh my gosh, you know, And I would have this dream recurrently over and over again. I had this dream, I don't know, like maybe 7 times that I can remember. And so when I went to the property, I started looking at some of the pictures, and of course I fell in love, but this had happened many, many times over the 4 years I'd been looking for land. And every time I got there, it was just like, I wasn't getting the feeling like intuitively that this was my land. So when I got to this particular property and I met the agent, Connie, she's the one that helped me, and she also represented the owners. So she acted as a intermediary for those of us that are in the business, and you understand. And I chose not to reactivate my license at that time and represent myself because, number one, I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't want to go in there and feel obligated to act like I knew what I was doing. And 2, I didn't want to bring an agent in from the city because I really felt like this is the country and I didn't know how that worked, and I didn't want it to be seen as off-putting, and I didn't want it to hurt my negotiations. And I really needed the knowledge of a really good country-based agent because I was doing something that was so different. I knew my Houston agents really wouldn't know too much about land unless they specifically had a specialty in that area. So I used Connie. We went out there. This property is 11 acres and it hadn't been mowed or tractored for a year. So in my growing zone, which happens to be 8B, I think, and 9A, that meant tall weeds up to the hip level, and I'm 5'5", so I mean they were half of my height. And that's pretty frightening. We have a lot of snakes, in Texas. And so Connie and I, neither one of us had a gun with us at the time. I don't even think we had a stick. I was wearing some little bitty short rubber boots with no socks. So we prayed and we went out on the property and we walked that property for almost 4 hours. And I knew when I stood out there on that property, I caught a cross breeze of honeysuckle and fruits and all the butterflies and all of the bees and all of the things that I saw on the property, and tons of cardinals and blue jays everywhere. And there was wild muscadine grapes and there was a plum thicket, and it was just unbelievably incredible. And no one had ever really lived on this property. I had pretty much raw land. It had just been, a big pasture that somebody had next to their house for years and years and years. And I think at one time they may have let somebody put a little RV out on it for a year or two, but I mean, other than that, it really had never been lived on per se. It was kind of untouched by man's hands. And I knew that moment this was going to be my land. So I was able to negotiate a really good price with the owners, and they accepted my contract, which I was so grateful for because they had multiple offers. And it really boiled down to kind of, I think, who they wanted to live next door. And when I told them what my plans were, it was kind of like a little light went off inside of them. And they were like, oh my gosh, we always dreamt of doing this or doing that. And they just got a little older and got up in years and didn't have the opportunity to do it. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So all this time, why 54, 54-year-old woman, with no tractor. I don't even drive a truck, y'all. I have a convertible. An older model convertible BMW. You should see me roll up at the feed store. The first couple times it happened, I was the laughing stock. Now it's just I'm just, comedic value for an old man or two that's in town. They'll take a picture of me rolling through with my hay in the back of my car with the top down. I don't care. You got to do what you got to do to get a job done, right? But I sat and I waited for years and years and years, and I thought, oh, I have to get married to do this. Oh, I need a husband to do this. And y'all, it is a hell of a lot easier to do this with a man, for sure. But it's not impossible to do it without. You could do it. I did most of it without knowing I was going to have any help at all. And it's because the Lord put his hand on me and said, yes, I want you to have this land. I want you to do what you're going to do with it. So long story short, I got the land, and it was raw land. And so it was partially fenced. It wasn't fully fenced. It had no power, no well, no septic. The pond was untouched and everything was supernatural. No roads, none of that. It has 440 feet of frontage road on it. And then it's long, like a rectangular shaped shoebox, I would say. And then the pond is kind of in the middle. So anyway, long story short, I was able to get the loan done. I pulled money out of my 401k along with some money I had saved up that I was going to buy the other house for. And my intention was always to keep this house, which was going to be for my son and eventually my granddaughter, who's 13. And they're my only immediate heirs. And then I was going to keep this house for them in the city, and then I was going to go ahead and build a primary house out on my land, and then have a little tiny house for each of them in the future. So that's still going to happen. The only difference is now this house is for sale. So some things have changed, and when I decided to resign from my job, I decided to sell this home due to some changes that occurred in my family, which I'll talk about, in another video, I'm sure. And take the proceeds from this and move into the RV that I have on my property. And I'm going to pay off all my bills. And I'm going to have a debt-free living environment for at least 2 years while I get the property up, running into spec. So what does that mean? It means that I need to finish getting the well in. I need to get the septic in and tie that up to the tiny house. I'm going to build a little fence around the tiny house. I'm going to put an orchard inside and around the tiny house inside the fence so that my current animal herd that I built up does not have access to all my fruits. But eventually, the property will be used for a multitude of things. So clearly I have adopted some animals. I adopted 3 horses. I adopted a mule. I adopted 2 donkeys. Those all came from rescues. The 2 cows I bought, and I bought them purposely already bred up, and they each delivered a bull calf for me in their first year, healthy bull calf. So I will be selling both of those bull calves and putting that money back into the property. I say we, like there's a whole team of us out there. There's not. I have a helper, my ranch hand, and actually my friend Cowboy. He kind of stepped up to the plate when I bought this land, and I think this was something that he always had a dream to do. But his family did some funky things and ended up kind of taking him out of his inheritance, if you will. And so he ended up just being able to help me on my land, and naturally I pay him for that. But we have a lot of fun. We have a good time, and he's taught me a lot because he's grown up more in a kind of country ranch animal-based environment, and I haven't. But anyway, so that's what's going on. I have 10 animals right now at the property. I have a family of beavers that took up residence and actually built me a fantastic pond. Excuse me, not a pond. I had the pond. They built me a dam. That's what builders build. That's what beavers build. They built me a dam. So they built me a dam that's like probably, 36 feet long, and it kind of curved, and it was just perfect. It's just one of the many things that God blessed me with. Everybody's like, oh my God, you have beavers. Shoot them, trap them, relocate them. I'm like, you know what? Those beavers were here before I was. And when I came out here, I had a problem with my pond not holding water and overflowing. It's just kind of like a big soup bowl. And I'm at the low spot of everybody in my area. So when we get a whole lot of rain, it comes up from the north down the little creek into my pond. And then when the pond gets too full, it backflows onto the beach and then drains back out. And then it's headed over to the creek to go to a lower lying area. Well, I brought a pond guy out there one time, and he sat up there for about 2 hours trying to give me a big old song and dance about, well, it could have been 30, it could be 30,000, it could be 60,000. I said, it's not going to be 30 or 60,000, because I'm not spending that kind of money on fixing this pond. 2 weeks later, y'all, the beavers showed up, and they built a dam that was like an engineering, genius, right? So they get to stay. Like anybody who works free at my property, that's worth something. So they're safe forever and ever and ever. Amen. Nothing will ever happen to those beavers. But anyway, first I had the beaver, and he's got a name. Everybody's got a name, so I'll do intros out at the property soon. And then he took on a wife, and then they were so cute working together. Like 2, 3 in the morning, you just hear their little across the pond, and they'd be floating these logs that they took down together as a team. It's the cutest thing ever. And then they had a baby. Oh my God. But then one day I found the mama beaver, and something ate her halfway up. They ate the whole bottom half of her, ate the whole top half of her. I found the bottom half of her, and that's how I knew it was the mama beaver, because I was able to identify her by her body parts. But super sad. And obviously, what do you do with that? So I, growing up in the suburbs, we took our animals to the vet and had them cremated and put in a box, and we got a little frame and a paw print, and you can't do that in the country. Number one is just too much going on. Animals get dropped all the time. I've had batches of dogs, cats dropped at my property, and not all of them made it. So there's just no way to cremate, and you just can't. I don't have. And other animals need to eat. So I adopted a concept called the sky burial concept, which basically just kind of feeds all the other animals that still have to eat, like your vultures and ants and everything. Even the earth just needs those nutrients. So I have a tree at the back of the property where my bees are. And the funny thing is, it was kind of like a dead tree. It really always looked dead the whole time I was there. And then as animals started to pass and things would just happen randomly, like mama beaver, or kittens or whatever that would get dropped, I would go and take them to the offering tree, and I would make a prayer and a little service for them, and thank God for their time on earth, and thank them for what they were going to do to feed and supplement whatever was going to take part of their bodies from there. And I would just place them down. I wouldn't even bury them. And literally in a day or two, you would see that the earth would claim it back somehow, be it, vultures or ants or whatever. So I just feel like that's a better system for me. And I picked that up from people in the country. So I know that horrifies people in the suburbs and the city. They're like, oh my God, I can't imagine. Oh. And I did have a kind of a real little weird story about that I'll share with you in the future. I won't do it today because this video is almost an hour, and I'm so sorry. If you're still with me, thank you. Thank you for holding on. But I had to make a lot of sacrifices to get this land. I had to make a lot of changes, and right now I'm literally living like kind of string to string, just making it happen. Because the property taxes are expensive, and my property was not ag exempt when I bought it. It had lapsed. Not only that, the owners that had the property before me weren't really paying too much attention to the valuation amount that the appraisal district had set on the property, because they were already seniors and had disability, and they had a very low tax rate. But when my tax rate at almost 3% kicked in at full value, and the way they had valued my property, holy smokes, guys, I am literally right now just kind of working to pay all the taxes. So I am 2 years on establishing my ag exemption on the property. It takes 5. So at the end of the 5-year period, I'll have to have a total of 5 beehives, bee colonies that are actively going. And so each year I go and I take a picture of what bees are flying around in my boxes to show them that there's proof of life, and that I do in fact have bees. It's not just like some boxes that I'm acting like I have bees, like I'm legit trying to save the planet out there, okay? Trying to keep some wildflowers in place for my pollinators and everything. So, but all this stuff is totally, totally new to me. And I just, every family member I've ever had that's ever died has left a bill for me to pay. Or a home for me to clean, or things for me to return. I don't really think I've ever received anything from anyone. And no shade, like if that's how you got your property, hey, blessings. Like your family was smart enough to leave a legacy that could actually end up in your hands. I can do nothing but be happy for you. So because that didn't happen for me though, this is my plan of creating a legacy for my family, and hopefully all the things that I'm doing on the property with bringing in the animals. I want to use the animals in kind of a healing ranch concept, where I don't know if I'll use them with children that have gone through traumas like I did, or maybe divorcees, or maybe just people who are just in a corporate environment and it's from meeting to meeting to appointment to, you know, crunching numbers to looking at Q4 results, and they just need to unplug and go out and be a part of nature and not answer their phone. Because that's one thing it's tough to have your phone on the property. When you've got 10 animals running around you, 4 cows, a mule, 3 horses, 2 donkeys, and then usually a couple of dogs, and then, you know, barn cats as well. There's too much going on for you to be in your screen. Because if your head's down here, you're going to get trampled. You're going to get trampled or kicked or run over, or I don't know, like it's not safe. So when you come to my house, like it's phone down unless you're taking some pictures, just because you want to just kind of immerse yourself in the experience and just get the feel for the land and share those moments with the animals. They really will connect with you. Bolt and Willow, my 2 little sweet little unicorns that I call them, they will literally, I can just hum to them and sing to them, and they'll put their head in my hands and just fall asleep in my hands while I'm humming or singing to them. Y'all, that is, some people love babies. And I guess they like the way they smell and the way they feel, and that's great. I love babies too. I really prefer them when they get a little older and I don't have to worry about their necks, moving around too much and all that. They're kind of fragile for me. But like horses, cows, donkeys, beavers, I'm about that life. So I am going to have a couple of income-producing crops out there. I'm going to be growing an acre of sunflowers. I'm going to be growing an acre of saffron. And then the saffron I plan to infuse and do some honey infusions with the saffron. There'll also be a completely organic garden, which will also have an organic greenhouse attached. And so my plan is to not only produce hopefully up to 85% of the food I'm consuming on site, but also to be able to make a multitude of herbs and tinctures and bars and body whips and things like that, from everything from goat's milk to some dandelion honey lozenges for, sore throats and things like that. Like, I want to take it back to 100 years ago when we weren't relying on medicines. Now they're telling you, this has a side effect of that. So many people have cancer. So many people are sick. And I've lost a lot of friends, guys. And at 54, I am not the healthiest woman I know. But I watch what I put in my body, and I'm watching what's in my food. And the cleaner you eat, the longer you're going to have on this planet, period. I mean, go to the gym and that's great too. But if you're eating like energy bars and energy drinks and things like that, even your supplements, guys, like some of those are really not healthy for you. Like, you need to take it back. Look at the Amish. Go Amish. I love the Amish. They got 10, 12 kids. None of their females have cancer. Well, that we know of. I mean, they're healthy, but why? Why are they healthy? Well, they've kind of excommunicated themselves from like all the conveniences of the things that we're doing here. And why do we do all those conveniences? Because we work so much and we don't have enough time to grow broccoli and green beans. But what if you did? What if you made different decisions? What if you chose to not get your hair colored for 4 years? Would you have enough money for a down payment on some land? Because I did. I stopped coloring my hair for 4 years. It was $300 every 4 to 6 weeks. Do the math. It's about $3 to $4 grand a year. In 4 years' time, it's about $16,000, guys. That's enough for a lot of people to do a lot of things with. You can buy a home on an FHA loan for 16 grand. You could go buy a whole RV for 16 grand. So there's a ton of things that you can do. Like if you want your life to be different, you have to do different things. So part of what I wanted to communicate was, you know, is it smart for me at 54, being a single woman, most of my family is dead. And the family that isn't dead, that I still communicate with and love, I mean, we're all kind of the same age pretty much. I can't rely on anybody to bail me out. Like, for me to quit my job and say, oh, I'm going to be a farmer. I mean, it's crazy, right? People think it's crazy. But did I just add 20 years to my life? Maybe I did. Because I think that the lifestyle that I was continuing to live, of the over and over and over and over again, of every month I have to make this goal, and the crunch and the stress and the, you know, every month's feeling like the end of the year, the end of the quarter. I mean, how long can you do that? And what kind of, imagine you doing that in your car, pushing the gas pedal all the way down, flattening that sucker. How long is your engine going to run well at that pace? I don't want to do that anymore. There's a reason that my car has multiple gears on it. I'm not supposed to be in fifth, torquing it out. That was torquing, not twerking. I'm not supposed to be in fifth gear, torqued to the nines all the way down the highway every day. And I think that society lied to us and told us, hustle and grind, hustle and grind. If you're not moving, you got time to lean, you got time to clean. You're not doing enough. Sometimes it's what you're not doing in that piece. That's what you really need to be doing. And I think that that's what we need to learn as a culture. So I'm going to try to use my, my property in the best way possible. My apothecary, once it's up and running, my healing ranch. I'm going to bring people to my property. I'm going to stock the pond. Although there are quite a few fish in the pond, it's about an acre pond. And so over the 11 years that this pond has been developing itself, it's created quite a nice ecosystem. But it could always be enhanced. But I want to open that up to people and give them an opportunity to come and unplug, and give them an opportunity to experience what I experienced and see how restorative and how good that feels. That sometimes it's just the motion of doing, maybe it's just the motion of cleaning a stall peacefully, just sifting out the chunks from the flakes. I mean, little stuff like that. Just allowing your mind and your body to reset. But touching nature, touching the trees, taking your shoes off occasionally and letting that grass, you know, feeling that grass under your feet, smelling those flowers, realizing that you can make things out of them. Beautiful restorative teas, things that will help clear mucus and phlegm out of people's lungs and restore their breathing ability. Guys, you don't need a bunch of medicines that are going to wreak havoc on your body, on your kidneys, on your liver, and on all these other things with all these side effects we don't even know about, when you can just take it right back to nature. So that's really my biggest thing, is I want to kind of say, okay, great. All this technology and advancement is excellent, but let's put the Chat GPT down for a second. Let's go back to the way that our forefathers did things, and maybe even generations before us that we didn't know about did things, because sometimes those are the best ways to do things. Sometimes you don't even need to recreate the wheel. We've gotten so used to allowing society to recreate that wheel because it's tied to money and monetization. And the only reason people really change things for the most part is so that they can patent it and make money on it. Because 9 times out of 10, the natural remedy is really the best way to go. So that's what I'm doing. That's what's going on with my property. That's what's going on with my land. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to make some more sacrifices, which is obviously selling my home, moving out of a neighborhood where I have a lot of conveniences and a lot of extra things that I don't need. I'm selling everything in this home. I'm selling the home and everything in it. And whatever doesn't fit into one box, it's all one box for the living room, one box for the kitchen, one box for the bedroom, and one box for the bathroom. Whatever doesn't fit in those 4 boxes, I'm leaving behind and I'm selling, because I'm going to move into a dollhouse, a tiny house. And I need furniture and items that are scaled for that size of an environment. And since I have learned how to live in between the property and my house for the last 2 years, building what I've built, I've realized that you really need a lot less than you think that you need. And at the end of the day, what you need is God. You need a few people that believe in you and stand behind you. And then you just need to get up and do it. And when you get up and do it, your people will show up. Your people will arrive. Like Cowboy, I met Cowboy 6 years ago, riding a horse down the middle of Spring Cypress Road. Like, I didn't know that he was going to end up helping me develop my land, my property, my ranch. I never knew that. But you know who did? God. And he made sure that I met Cowboy 6 years ago. And then he just said, Rhonda, if you will just get up and do this, what I'm telling you to do, go buy this land, go make a healing place for people to come where they can feel safe. And you can show them how all they really need is some quiet time with me and the things that I've created. And that will restore and heal everything that they need to restore and heal in their bodies. Just do that, and I'll bring all your helpers. And he has, and he is, and he continues to do so. And I'm so, so blessed. And I thank you all for coming along on this journey with me and for not judging me. Because, yeah, it could be like, what's this crazy lady doing over here? But, hey, like I tell some people, that call that you got from God didn't go to everybody. So if people don't understand your vision and your call, don't worry about it. Their call came in differently. What God is asking them to do and what their purpose is totally different from yours. And that's why yours doesn't make sense to them. But anybody that actually knows about the Lord, that loves the Lord, knows that he will use the least of us to do the most. And I think that that's what he's doing with me. He's taken somebody, guys, that didn't know about the country, that didn't have any money, that didn't have a pedigree, that didn't have a good family. I was never that girl that a young man and his family would go, you know what, son, I want you to marry her. She comes from a good background and I think she'd make a good wife. That was never said about me. If it was, I'm certain I wasn't aware of it. But that's okay. Even as a single woman, and even being estranged from my family the way that I am, God's still given me purpose, and he's still given me something amazing to do for the planet and to bring together all of my brothers and sisters and all of us, because we are all one. And so whether I look like you or I look like you think that I'm supposed to look doing what I'm doing or whatever, try to just erase that, because God does the most. Like, he's going to take something to really get your attention. And I mean, I was an R&B singer for 30 years. Okay. Like, I knew no country music. I still really don't know a lot of country music. And it's funny, because my friends used to be like, oh, you want to go, country dancing and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I don't want to do any of that. Like, I'm not even that good of a dancer. But God didn't say I had to be like the best looking boot scooting little fluffy footed, hen haw out there. He just said, get out there and do it, Rhonda. And I'm going to make it happen for you one way or another. And he's doing it. And he's been doing it. And so I just hope this encourages you in a couple of ways. One, if you've got a dream and you haven't been pursuing it, sit down and spend some time with your maker tonight and say, you know what, God, what dream that you put in my heart am I supposed to utilize right now? Because once you find that, it's like the fountain of youth to your heart. Like, it literally makes you younger on the inside, because you get back a passion and a curiosity and a want and just a craving for knowledge that you haven't had since you were a child. And people see it on you and they're like, are you in love? What's different about you? What have you changed? I can't figure out what it is. It's that light. It's that light of the Lord and following your purpose and doing what you're supposed to be doing. And just keep lock into that. And if you don't know what your purpose is, I'm going to do some videos on how to figure that out and how to ask the Holy Spirit to come into your life and reveal your purpose to you, because he'll show it to you. But there might be some ways that I can help point you in the right direction as well. I don't charge for anything. I'm not selling anything. There's no hidden motive. I love you. I love humanity. I love this planet, and I want to make it better. I want to make it a better place when I leave here. I want it to be better. Everything that I touched to just be a little more sparkly, a little bit more sweet. So sparkles and sweet. Go live your dream. And thank you for supporting me while I'm living mine. God bless you all, and I'll be uploading another video for you guys soon. Sorry I went so long today.